It might feel horrible, but trust me, you're a lot closer to having the relationship that you want.
Did you just put the ring on, or are you in the first few years of your marriage? Welcome to the First Year Marriage Show, a podcast dedicated to helping newlyweds navigate the first few years of marriage. My husband, Marcus, and I will be sharing marriage tips to help you build a strong foundation for your marriage. We believe having a strong foundation is essential to having a happy, healthy, and lasting marriage. We will also be learning from the experiences of awesome married couples who have been where you are today, taking from them lessons to help you build a strong foundation for the lasting marriage you desire. Take a deep breath, relax, learn, and enjoy the show. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the First Year Marriage Show. I'm Ashley. Thank you for the feedback. For those of you who have contacted us this week, letting us know what you want to hear on the show and the improvements we can implement to make this show as helpful as it can be for you and your marriage. For those of you who haven't contacted us yet, we would love to hear from you about how this podcast is helping you, and any suggestions or questions you have for us, send us an email to firstyearmarriage@gmail.com. To get updates about this podcast, the blog, or any free resources we find useful, you can visit firstyearmarriage.com/communication to join our community and access to our free ebook on how to improve communication in your marriage. For all the show notes for this episode, visit firstyearmarriage.com/19. Enjoy this week's First Year Marriage story.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the First Year Marriage Show. I am Marcus Kusi, and our guests for this week's episode are Mark and Marie Oates. Mark and Marie have been married for more than 6 years. They have one son, and they live in Nashville, Tennessee. They love helping couples untangle the messy parts of their relationship. Mark has been divorced before, and this is his second marriage, so he'll also be sharing insights into the lessons that he learned from his first marriage and how he's been able to apply those to the first year that he was married to Marie. So Mark and Marie, thank you guys for being our guests for this week's episode.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Yeah.
Can you guys tell us a little bit about yourself and how you met each other?
Sure. We are marriage coaches, and we work together and help couples untangle their conflict and the arguments that they're having. And the way that we met each other was at church. I went to the wrong Sunday school class. And Mark was visiting for the first time, and I thought he was cute. And so it took a while for us to actually talk, though. But it was a couple of months later, and then we actually started talking and hanging out. And he ended up becoming the teacher for that Sunday school class. And so then I was dating the Sunday school teacher, which is a whole different level of awkward for me. Because I was like, oh, this is like dating a priest.
Mark,
Yes.
how did you feel being the preacher and having your student being your girlfriend?
I honestly, I don't really. Now you're getting into religion. I just love it. No, for me, it's more of a, it's a teacher role. I think a lot of people are capable of teaching and teaching well. I didn't think too much of it. She thought more of it than I did. I was just a teacher. I was just there to organize and help.
He just thought I was cute.
I thought she was cute. And I didn't, when you're about the same age as everyone in the classroom, it's not really, I'm not thinking too much about it, but Marie definitely thought a lot about it.
I was like, are we allowed to kiss?
Is what it was. I don't want to say anything that's wrong, Mark. Oh my gosh. It's like, I'm a person too, I just teach a Sunday school class. Like, let it go, Marie.
So we had a funny start because I did feel very like, oh, I'm not supposed to, I'm flirting with the Sunday school teacher. It was kind of funny at the beginning, but it grew from there. We were attracted to each other because we were both serving in different ways at the church we were going to and working together that way. And just seeing somebody that, is putting so many other people ahead of themselves was a really, it just was a really good clue. Like, hey, this is a good person. You should pay attention to them. And it was more than just the looks or they had the, right car, all these other superficial things. We were really paying attention to. This could be a good partner for the rest of your life, which that was a good gamble for my I made a good bet.
So what really like struck you with Mark that you were like, okay, this is the one that I want to settle down with? Like,
I think a big part was for me was that we were so different. So I was like, I really believe this, and I've said it since we started dating, was like, we are like a super power duo if we use
if the power is used for good and not evil.
Yeah. Because we definitely have like completely different personalities. I'm an extrovert. He's an introvert. I'm very like social and like just go. And he's like, let's think about it and plan.
Leave me alone. Yes.
Yeah. And leave me alone. And so it could have been easy to like write that off and be like, oh, we're too different. But I think from the very beginning, I was like, I need that type of person in my life. Because it brings out the good stuff in me and I can learn from him. So for me, a lot of the attraction as our relationship grew was he is a good person for me to grow with. Instead of looking at his differences as being like, oh, this is an obstacle that's not worth fighting for. Because it was, there was a lot of fighting to get through a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I think it was definitely I saw him as my like superpower. We're like the Avengers. Like what I don't have, he has, and what he has, I don't have. So,
Mark,
yes,
I wanted to ask you how did you know that Mary was the one? What really made you decide? Okay, this is the second time I'm about to get married. This is the one that I know I really want to spend the rest of my life with. Because I know getting married for the second time is not easy for a lot of people. So, and even making that decision that this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with is something that a lot of people take their time, like sweet time, to even make that decision. So how did you know that Mary was the one you wanted to get married to?
Having been married once before, you become acutely aware of, like, marriage is a game that you wake up and you play every day. There's no break. There's no end of season. It's constant. It's every day. So you prove the quality of your relationship or your marriage day in and day out. And so because I had managed to be in a marriage where I had a partner who decided that she didn't want to play anymore. Like, just literally, I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to try. I don't want to do anything. I just want to go have fun. It makes you realize that ultimately selfishness is a big issue. So for me, it was really a rather simple solution. And that is, the trick is you got to find somebody who isn't selfish. So you've got to come up with some methodology for finding someone that you can prove. It's like Mother Teresa. Very few people would question the quality of what she is on the inside based upon what she does. Not what she looks like, but what she does. And so for Marie, it was one of those things where I rolled into church and she's very attractive, but who cares? In the big picture, I married somebody, my first marriage was, I was married to somebody who was attractive, but that doesn't make someone show up and play the game day in and day out. So you've got to find, for me, it was an issue of, I need to find somebody who carries my values, has the same rule book. And for me, the values, the principles of life are definitely our biblical values. So I wasn't, hunting for Marie in bars or whatnot. In fact, I really wasn't honestly even looking for Marie. She was just a very attractive girl in an environment where you'd really hope to find a really attractive girl. But it took a long time for she and I, because I took my bloody time, and eventually, ultimately, the decision came down to actually talk to the pastor's wife like 3 months after I saw her and said, tell me about this person. Is she as good as she seems? And she goes, yes, absolutely. I'm like, so that's not a joke. What she does isn't a joke. And she's like, no, she's not a joke. She's she's the real deal. She's as good as she seems she is. So yeah, I went about looking for somebody who was doing something for other people, that was doing something that basically there just wasn't a lot of benefit to themselves over. Like, no one sits back and thinks that Mother Teresa is in trying to get, bragging rights or bragging points for what she does. And so, not that Marie is Mother Teresa. Lord knows, not Mother Teresa.
I was so getting
much
excited.
Better looking, I will say.
Another thing I think, just to piggyback on this, is we did a lot of premarital counseling. Even actually what we did was pre-engagement counseling.
Oh, yeah.
Because Mark was very because we fought a lot, because like I said, we're very different. And so he was like, I can't marry you until I know we can work through things in life and
right.
conflict in a healthy way. And so we went to pre-engagement counseling, which a lot of people are like, doesn't that mean you're doomed if you have to do it?
Right.
But I think just really given Mark's background.
Oh, yeah, because coming out of a divorce, it's a funny thing. Guys are really weird when they come out of divorces because guys usually don't come out understanding exactly what went wrong. Because usually guys aren't the ones initiating divorce. Statistically, it's 2 out of 3. It's women divorcing men. Most guys lift up their hands, and I did too at the very beginning. When I got out, I was like, what happened? What did I do wrong? And that's what most guys are thinking. What did I do wrong? And in my mind, I did the same thing. What did I do wrong? And I clearly had done things wrong, that's for certain. But at the end of the day, marriage, I don't really think is so much about trying not to do things wrong. It's about being committed despite doing things wrong. You're going to have to learn how to communicate. Like no two people are ever going to live in the same house and really know one another without completely irritating and annoying the other person.
That's definitely true.
I mean, that's just part of life. And that is relationship. And I think we all fall in love with the television show Friends. We love to watch a TV show where all these people live together and spend lots of time. But with spending lots of time with people, inevitably comes friction and disagreement. And so you can't just bury it off. And, not everything in a marriage, ends with everyone feeling good and laughing like the Cosby Show or whatever. So for me, coming out of a divorce, there was definitely some things that I walked away kind of going, okay, I've learned some lessons, and communication was one of those things where I was like, I'll never get married again until I figure out. It's so tiring to hear, like, to not know how to deal with someone's emotions. Like, because I think for me and for maybe a lot of guys, it's the issue of, your wife would come home being really emotional because Marie would have these huge, like she kind of hold on to her disagreements with me or her problems with me. And then she'd let them all out. And when she'd let them all out, they'd be really loud. And
very loud and very long.
And for me, that wasn't acceptable. I'm like, no, like we're going to fix this or we're not doing it. But I just refused to think that, I think it's stupid, frankly, to get married and just think that your issues or the things that you have are all going to be, well, let's just agree to disagree. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
It never works. You have got to learn how to sit on the other side of the table from someone and square up all the numbers to make it all work. Like you have got to figure out how to talk. And Marie and I were opposites. Like I'm a logical 1, 2, 3 kind of black and white person. And Marie's completely a feeling, emotional person. But along the way in our process of learning to be in a relationship with each other, we've learned some just immeasurable skills that it doesn't mean we don't yell. It doesn't mean we don't go at each other. It doesn't mean it's just we're a hell of a lot smarter than most people when it comes to fighting. Like I don't make most of the mistakes I'd say probably 80 to 90% of people make, or at least I used to make, and most of all my friends make. It's not rocket science. Like there's a lot to know in the universe. Like there's a lot more to learn. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you for elaborating more into how you met Marie and the qualities that you were looking for. I think from what you were saying, it looked like based on your previous marriage, you were looking for someone who was selfless and someone who would be willing to put their wants behind themselves and take care of other people's needs.
Absolutely.
So after you guys got married during your first year, I know from what you guys were saying, you probably had a lot of fights here and there, a lot of struggles here and there, which we're going to delve into as we go on with the interview today. How would you guys describe your first year of marriage in 1 or 2 words?
Easy.
Smooth, really.
Smooth. Yeah, because I think what's different is that I was hard bent, and I mean hard bent. I was not going to repeat what I'd gone through. I'd gone through too much. It was too hard. It was too difficult. I was not going to repeat the divorce or the relationship I'd had before. So when it came down to it, like we didn't really think about it. Like 99% of what makes life work or relationships work is always your ability to talk and communicate. Not when you're feeling good, but when you're feeling bad, when things are horrible, when things are awful. And so there was a really exerted and committed effort on both of our parts to figure that out before we got married. And when we figured it out, well, it's like anything. It's like, once you figure the problem out, you stop having that problem. You start learning how to do things a different way, like your life changes. So by the time we got married, we had already put to bed a lot of the issues that had kind of plagued us in our dating life.
It was easy. Like, I don't remember any big fights.
Quiet.
It was very quiet. I don't think our marriage got hard until we had kids.
Yes, I think that's true right there.
So, but yeah, easy would be how we describe the first year for the most part.
I don't know what problems were in the first year.
I'll say this. No. I do remember that we had never really talked about politics before we got married. And, we only focused on like ourselves, I guess. So anyways, and then 2008 was when Obama got elected, and me and Mark have very different opinions on politics. So we were already married, and we found out that we disagree pretty big in this one area, which it doesn't affect us on a day-to-day, but around election time, it's not fun to be married. But no, that's about the only thing that really, that's always my joke.
Yeah, first year, yeah.
The first year that was what we said was our political differences came out, and we were like, oh, we're different on that.
Right.
How did you guys deal with your political differences? Like, did you have a really long conversation and then came to an agreement and this is what we're going to do and this is the way everything's going to be, or you came out with a different set of solutions for how to deal with your different political views?
We just kind of, because since it's mostly like philosophical, I think we've learned a lot from each other in our conversations. I don't think anybody's changed.
No, I don't think, no.
Our views haven't changed really. But that's probably the one area where we do agree to disagree. But I think
I don't look at it that way though at all. In fact, because one of the last things I want in my marriage is a place, any place that's off limits. Like, I don't want to have any conversation or any problem or anything in my home that's off limits. I want my wife to know that there's not a topic.
Yeah, we talk about it.
Do we have to? We talk about it all the time. Have we made tons of mistakes in those conversations? Because a lot of those issues really come down to, I'm a very logical individual, whereas Marie's a very emotional individual. So when you're talking about some of these issues, Marie can see a perspective that I don't see. And sometimes in voicing my opinion about things, it seems irreverent or it seems uncaring or unkind. And so many times it has been, I have really irritated and hurt Marie's feelings and made her feel bad when I had no intention on doing so. But that's part of the educational process. I don't want to back down from those conversations because I need to learn how to communicate in a way that doesn't totally like piss her off, as well as the rest of the world for that matter. And at the same time, one of the things that we've realized is the fact that everyone has a right to their point of view. We all have a unique life and a unique history, and we're entitled to our point of view. And I want my wife to care about my point of view because she cares about me, not because, again, it comes back to that unselfishness thing. Do I really want to be around someone who cares so much about their own point of view that they can't even listen? No. At the same point in time, do I want to be that person? No, I don't.
We just have very careful conversations when it's about politics. I think we go slower on those conversations than we do on normal things. So it was definitely something we learned after the fact, like how some people learn, oh, I've married someone who, is really messy. Like, that's the thing that we learned about each other. Like, oh, you voted for that person. Interesting.
But at the end of the day, it's not what you believe that really makes a difference or a hill of beans toward my marriage or my relationship. It's what you wake up every day and do that matters to me.
So, but yeah, that was our big fight.
So from what you guys are saying, it looks like because you guys had different political views, that was the adjustments that you guys had to go through during that first year. Would you say that?
Yeah.
So after you guys got married, like, how did you guys deal with your in-laws? Did you have issues that you had to deal with, or was it something that was easy peasy, like you said your first year was?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, for me, like I can't speak about my in-laws for Marie, but Marie's in-laws, her parents, I love them to death. But that was, to be honest with you, that was one of the selling factors of Marie. Is I had come out. No, seriously, it's like in-laws matter because when life gets ugly and horrible, and she doesn't want to do right by you, and there will be days like that. It's a real smart thing to have the in-laws on your side. Because in my first marriage, I married the preacher's daughter. Okay. So you would have thought I would have had some kind of like, I would have thought, maybe not you, but I would have thought that I married the preacher's daughter. We're using the same biblical rule book, right? Like, so when she starts acting crazy, you would have thought that the in-laws would have backed me. They didn't.
Wow.
But I'd always kind of had issues with them from day one, and so it was one of those kind of things where looking back, like after that, I told myself, never again. If they don't love me, if I don't love them, forget it. It's not worth it.
So, yeah, my parents,
I love them.
Yeah, they're great. And Mark's parents, actually, when we first got married, they were missionaries. So they weren't around. Like, I think I met them maybe anyways, we'd only met a couple of times before we got married. So for me, I mean, yeah, it was really easy because they were in Mexico and they didn't have a lot of, they weren't involved in our life very much on the day to day. But about 2-3 years into our marriage, they did move back, and we actually lived together for a period, which is part of the harder season of the Oates family.
Yeah. Of our story, yeah.
I have a great relationship with my in-laws as well. His parents watch the kids all the time, and the kids. I said the kids.
You said the kids. There's one.
We only have one.
There can be only one.
But yeah, that was wishful thinking.
Yes.
No, I have an amazing relationship with them. So it was pretty easy, even once I got home, for everybody to kind of get on the same page. And I think this year we did Thanksgiving with all, like, my family and his family, everybody together. So we didn't even have same Christmas, same Thanksgiving. So we're one of those weird people.
What do you think is the key to you guys having a really healthy relationship with your in-laws?
I don't know.
I think it's values again. I think it comes back down.
Yeah, everybody kind of has the same idea of what family looks like and what, what's really important.
Her family was going to the same church at the same time, if that tells you anything. Yeah,
so we were all kind of, definitely we all have the same values. I think another thing is everybody's really easygoing on both sides. Yeah. There isn't a lot of we need to do it. Mark's family isn't oh, well, you have to do it our way and the way we do it. They're very flexible, and they let us kind of not dictate, but we definitely have a say in how we're going to do holidays, or, how often we're going to have dinner with them or whatever. And then my family is equally flexible. My dad was married before he married my mom. And one of the things that killed their marriage was that the in-laws both kind of did this tug of war over them. Mm-hmm. So my dad was very if you guys need to go be with your in-laws for anything, if you want to do Christmas with them over us one year or whatever, he was you guys have the freedom. I know you have to do what's best for your family. And I feel like both sides of our family gave us that
I don't think we've ever had a
tug of war situation.
Not a single time. And Thanksgiving,
Christmas,
nothing,
which I guess is what most people fight about with in-laws.
Mm-hmm.
It's that whole time thing. And so I feel like both sides of our family really let us, they did the whole leave and cleave. Yeah. They're get out of here.
Well, I think also for Marie's family, it was, he's been married, so he knows what it's like to be caught in the middle. For me, my family had been on the mission field close to 20 years. The first 10 or 15, they were in Venezuela. So my parents, by and large, have been gone a long, long time. Mm-hmm. To the degree of, email and Skype kind of wasn't invented during all that. Email, but not really the Skype thing. So it was mostly an email relationship. So my relationship with my parents really suffered. But when they left the mission field, they came to Tennessee, they were just excited. They're just thankful to be around. So they're so thankful that they don't really get pushy about anything.
Right.
And they're both very laid back. So
it looks like you guys had great in-laws and you really meshed everything together with your values. So I really like it that way because I just couldn't imagine you guys having in-laws with different values and them not agreeing to do things together or to come into a compromise to say, okay, we're going to do X, Y, Z this way. But everybody trying to pull the strings for whatever beliefs or whatever values that they have. I think that would really cause a lot of issues for you guys doing those first years.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You guys made mention about having an easy and a smooth first year. For my marriage, it wasn't that smooth or that easy. But I do know that even though your marriage was really smooth and easy, there will probably be one or two things that, you made mention about the politics, and we've talked about it. I want you guys to share one thing that you guys had a conflict about during that first year. It could be maybe whose turn was it to wash the dishes, or whose turn is it to take the puppy out, anything in relation to that.
So the only thing we could really think of that was maybe hard to deal with was, so when we got married, I moved into Mark's house, and we didn't live together before we got married. So we kind of just got thrown into this whole like sharing the house together. And so it was definitely Mark's place. And we even had a roommate, a single guy that was living in one of the extra bedrooms.
He was more like family.
Yeah, he was more like family, but it was definitely like a dude's place. And so then when I moved in, I didn't feel like I was, you know, like you're a newlywed wife and you were like, not you. I wanted to be like, oh, let's decorate everything and make it pretty and put pictures up. And I never felt like I was not allowed, but I didn't feel comfortable.
And I'm over here shaking my head. Disbelief. Even now.
Yeah. So that was like probably the hardest, not the hardest transition, but one of the weirder ones. Cause I would literally like, if we got into a fight or if I felt upset about something, I would feel like I had to go sit in my car because it was the only thing I like owned.
Yes, it did. So every time she'd get mad, she'd slam the door and go sit in her car.
Sit in my car.
If she's really mad, she'd slam the door, go sit in her car, and then back the car down the driveway.
Yeah.
And then pull back in and sit there. I'm going to my mom's house. All right.
Which this doesn't sound like it was an easy or smooth first year, but that was, but it was it was probably about politics that I got mad about. But yeah, so that was probably the biggest transition, was like figuring out like how to feel like you shared a home with somebody who was like already living there. So it's like couples who like go buy their first place together or go buy their first apartment, whatever. I feel like they have it a lot easier because when you're just kind of like putting yourself in a place that somebody's already kind of set up shop in, it's really hard to like find out what nooks and crannies are allowed to be yours. And also like having people over. Like I remember my mom was going to come by and Mark was like almost had a panic attack because our house was very messy. And I was like, who cares?
She'd want to bring people over. And for me, that was a transition too. That got us in a little bit of trouble. Like my house is my bunker.
Yeah, he definitely treats it like this is like nobody comes in here except
right. And so it was a transition for me to kind of go, okay, well, it's not just my bunker anymore. It's Marie's too, and she can bring people in here. And that was awkward. Because I think at that time I'm like, well, it's a nice house, but it's not exactly decorated. And I just kind of felt really, I guess, insecure about like her mom or people coming over. And I'm like, this is not a decorated house. And I felt like that's probably what she wanted.
And one of the strengths for us is that neither of us like really care about things being messy at all. So our house usually is kind of messy just because we're cool with that. But Mark has like some degree of like dignity. So he didn't want people to come in and see that messy. I have no dignity. So I was like, sure, come on over, bring your friends. And so we would get in, because he'd start cleaning and get all stressed out. And I'd be like, chill out, sit down.
It's and at one point in time that got translated into that I didn't want her mom to come over.
Yeah.
That was a big...
So that wasn't cool with me.
So,
but yeah, so that kind of like sharing of the actual house, that was, I think, a hard...
So you were just adjusting to living together as a married couple under one roof.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do we share this? What belongs to who, and all that kind of stuff. And
closet space,
and Marie having to live in the car when she gets mad.
Yep.
Yeah. Mark.
Yeah.
Mark, I have a question for you. Marie made mention about her having to slam the door and go sit in her car and then drive back to the beginning of the driveway. How did you feel when she did that, and like what did you do to calm her down to bring him back into the house?
Nothing. It sounds bad, but it's, I think one of the fundamental rules that we have is we never fight mad. Now, we break that rule time to time, but there's never a time afterwards that we ever find out that breaking the rule ever worked. It doesn't work. It never works. In our house, we actually have rules about it. Like if you're angry, it's not the time to talk. So we kind of have a bit of a plan. Like when I get angry, Marie will know it because my thing is I get up. Usually I go clean the kitchen. I usually go wash dishes. Because for me, it's like if I'm having a conversation where I'm angry to a point where I can't talk anymore, I'm feeling like I can't win. So I might as well go do something where I feel like I can win. So I usually go do something productive. And Marie knows that she'll come in 20, 30 minutes later and we'll have a conversation. So when Marie got mad at me, we had already set the rules up. I already knew what to do. And it was, I can't talk to her until she's ready to talk. So
Yeah. So I think a lot of women, we kind of throw our temper tantrums and like we pout, depends on your style. Like I pout and then I want you to ask me, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And I say, fine, fine, fine. And then I'm like, okay, here's what's really wrong. That's what we did when we were dating.
Right. But see, that's completely dysfunctional though. When you think about it, it's why you're an adult. I'm an adult. If you need something, we have to be responsible to speak for ourselves. It can't be my responsibility to guess or to be in your brain and to guess what you're thinking or when I need to come talk to you, because it's disrespectful to me. Just like when you're talking and I assume I know what you're thinking, that's disrespectful to you. You just have to be,
Yeah. So I would go sit in the car, and I think where most women would maybe want, he better come get me. Huh?
A little cuddling?
Yeah, a little coddling and like, oh, come get me. Like I knew the rules for our fighting. So I would go sit in the car, kind of cool down, get it out of my system. And then when I felt better, I'd come in. So we kind of had...
She'd still slam the door though.
I'd slam doors.
Don't get me wrong.
I would slam doors, but by the time I came back in, I was usually pretty calm and like, okay, now I'm ready to talk. I'm not mad anymore. So we'd gotten past all the... like kind of the dancing that people normally do in that situation. Like, I want you to come chase after me. Like, we'd already established Mark's not chasing after you. You're not chasing after him. Everybody comes to the table when they're ready. Yeah. So that was kind of how that all went down.
That sounds really amazing, because I know with a lot of couples, especially in the first year, they don't set any rules or any like stringent things that they're going to follow. If this happens, this is what we are going to do. If that happens, this is what we're going to do. So I'm really glad that you guys are sharing insights into how you guys set rules before you got married. So when XYZ happened, you knew what to do and what to expect.
Exactly.
Yeah, because if you don't, what ends up happening is you end up in more trouble.
Yeah.
Because when you say, I'm too angry to talk about it and get up and walk away, that can have exciting results.
That's definitely true. Like, I remember in our first year also, I don't know what the argument was. Like, I and my wife, we had a similar issue. And she went out, just like Marie, you went out. And she was crying, but she didn't slam the door. She was crying and she went out. And she was expecting me to come out there and hug her and keep her warm and bring her back inside. But I was sitting inside the house waiting for her. And she thought I was going to come out. I never went out there. And then she came back and I was like, okay, this is something that we need to talk about. Like, this is how I think we should do it. We are mature individuals. We should talk about it. You shouldn't just slam the door and then go out and be out there thinking, I'm going to come out there. And then I don't want to say this word just to make other people angry, but for me to pamper you. I saw that as like me pampering a 9-year-old or a 2-year-old. And I don't want to do that to someone I'm married to.
Right. Oh, Mark always talks about that you don't want to cave into the temper tantrum and things like that. And we're definitely seeing... Like the way I handle our son, I'm very much like, let's go talk to him. He's feeling bad. And Mark's like, no, he needs time out. He needs discipline. Like, don't cave, Marie. Don't cave. And so.
Yeah. It looks like you guys had a lot of fun. Do you want to share any exciting or funny moment that happened during your first year?
No, like we said, it's pretty boring. I don't think we had anything.
We watched a lot of TV in silence. We have no idea what that is now.
No, I don't know that we had anything terribly fun. I started a counseling business our first year, so that was kind of fun to, kind of grow something together. At that time, it was just me doing the counseling, but just like thinking about a business and all that kind of stuff and the excitement that comes with that. But yeah, other than that, we didn't really have tons going. Maybe that's what made it so awesome. It was like a coast year. Like, there's nothing going on.
Like, Marie and I have similar interests in that. Enjoyable for us is, a fireplace and a book. Yeah. Or a television show
we're very homebody type.
Yeah, very homebody, very laid back. Probably really boring for a lot of people, but that's just what, the way I roll and the way she rolls, I guess.
Listening to the beginning when you guys were talking about how you were the introvert and Marie was the extrovert, I was thinking maybe with this one, you probably have a funny moment whereby you want to go party and one of you guys want to stay home. And
we had a lot. I would always ask Mark, do you want to go? And then after a while, it was like, forget it. He doesn't want to go to anything. And, I didn't take it personally. I know a lot of couples where their husbands are like, I don't want to go do anything. And, you can fight about it and try to make them an extrovert, or you can just let them go to the stuff they want to go to. And, it's like he has like the energy for like one big outing a year.
Yeah. Like I have the energy to do so much. It's like, pick your battles, pick what you want. But I mean, I do. Don't get me wrong. Even at the very beginning, it was one of those kind of things where I'm like, do I want to go? No. If you want me, if you would like me to go, I would love to go if that would make you happy.
Right.
Like, I'll do this because I love you and I care for you. Thanksgiving's a big deal for Marie. Not so much a big deal for me, but it is for her. Mm-hmm. So I know that Thanksgiving is a big deal.
I know you guys spent a lot of time preparing for your marriage and getting to know each other. During that first year that you guys were married, was there any book or resource that you guys, or program that you guys did together that you think really impacted your marriage, looking backwards now?
Susan Heitler's The Power of Two. It's a really great book. And she just like lays out every communication rule you can possibly think of.
It's not rocket science. No. I mean, I think that's the thing is like, I until I came across Susan Heitler or John Gottman, like you ever come across a subject and you realize, oh my gosh, someone has this thing figured out.
Yeah.
And it was like, and you kind of go, where's this person been? But the world's a big place, and Google it. Go looking for people who have answers. And so when I came across what Susan Heitler had to say, it just made sense. And I was like, gee, this lady has it figured out. Like all these communication problems guys have with women, this nonsense about guys can't understand feelings, this nonsense about guys living in homes where their wives feel like their husbands don't care about them or doesn't care about their emotions or how they feel. That's all nonsense too. That's all been figured out. It's just you have to believe it's possible before you even start to go looking. So Heitler, she'll bore you to death in a way, like it's what she's saying so simple, but
if you actually do what she's talking about, it can really change the way you communicate.
It will totally change the way you communicate.
Okay. You said the title of the book is The Power of Two?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. I'll definitely get a copy of that to read with my wife. If not this year, next year. I think it will be a good book for us to read together to improve our communication. I know communication is a big issue in marriage, and even if you are really, really good at communicating with each other, you still need to be working on your marriage to be able to make it a whole lot more better.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes. You guys
every
should
day.
totally read it.
Yeah, and I would say that like we had a very basic grasp of that at the very beginning. But it was enough. It was enough. And nowadays there's no slamming doors. There's no sitting in cars and driveways. It's like, and that's growth. Like that's
we're getting better.
Right.
That is a lot of growth, definitely.
Yeah.
I know you guys have talked a lot about your first year being really smooth and easy. And I know there are newlyweds who are listening to us or other married couples who are listening to us right now who have probably been married 10, 20 years, who don't find their marriage to be smooth and easy. If there was one lesson or advice that you guys know now that you wish you had known before or during the first year that you guys were married, what would it be?
You want to go first?
Well, I mean, I think a big thing that has helped us is that we pay a lot of attention to each other's feelings. So when we're having these hard conversations or when we're having a fight, we don't just talk about like what we're fighting about. We talk about how what we're talking about makes us feel. So I say like, I'm feeling lonely because you don't want to go to a party with me, or he says I'm feeling disrespected because of whatever. So I feel like that has helped us not just fight better, but connect more. Like I feel like I really know my husband and I keep learning more about him because of those kind of conversations. So that's what I would encourage other couples to do is don't just fight about whatever the topic is, talk about, quit fighting and talk about the feelings that you're having. Cause I feel like that's always more productive. And I think that helped our first year of marriage a lot.
Gosh, that's a tough one, Mike. I would say,
Mark,
yeah.
Before you give us your advice, can you shed a little light into like some of the lessons that you learned from your first year that you're married, like the first marriage that you had, and how that helped you to be able to have a really good first year with Marie?
Money matters. You need to talk about money, how you deal with money, how you're going to manage money, because that was a huge issue in my first marriage that isn't an issue in my second. Communication is a huge issue. It was a huge issue in my first marriage, but not with Marie. So you have to believe like there's only two ways to get through life as I see it. If you can't take my advice, you're going to end up taking the second road, because the first road is faith. You're going to have to trust someone's advice. You don't know me from scratch, and I'm saying you need to get someone to teach you how to learn the communication skills. You need someone to teach you how to fight fair. But if you don't believe me, it leaves you to the only other choice that you can have, and that is failure. And at the end of pain and frustration is humility. And at humility, you finally come to this place where you can accept that maybe someone else has an answer that you don't, because all the answers that you have are worthless. What my first marriage did to me was it humiliated me. It took all the clever thoughts that I had, all my faith, all my belief that my religion was going to save me, all my belief that family ties and friendship with my in-law was going to save me. And it showed me that ultimately, at the end of the day, if you don't communicate with your wife, if you don't succeed in her understanding and believing that you understand how she feels and what she's going through on a day-to-day basis, you're headed to failure. That's where you're headed. You can only sweep so much under the rug until it blows up in your face. So for me, my first marriage humiliated me. It took every belief that I had about what was going to make a successful marriage and tossed it back in my face and said, yeah, no, that ain't the right answer. And at that point in time, it's really hard to believe that it's even worth doing. And I walked out of that marriage thinking, no, I'll never do it again unless A, I can figure out the communication piece, because I'm tired of having these emotional conversations. They go round and round and round, and they never get solved, and they never go away. They just come back later. I'll never do that again. I'll never deal with money again. I'll never deal with in-laws that I don't absolutely trust and believe. So all the disasters, all the bad things I learned in my first marriage, I had a really powerful reason to never make those mistakes again. Divorce is a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. And I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It's that horrible of an experience. So for me, I have what most people don't have. And that is, I've been a huge failure. I've made huge mistakes. I thought I could be the typical guy. And it's like, no, you can't. You're going to have to learn how to understand when she says she wants to talk about how she feels. You're going to have to learn how to deal with it or suffer the consequences. And if I were to tell people anything, it would be, don't take the communication lightly. It's never too late to go find yourself a counselor. It's not stupid. It's going to save your butt. Do it. How much is it worth to you? The money shouldn't matter. And it didn't matter to me. When Marie and I finally made the decision, hey, let's go learn everything we possibly can about one another. I looked at her and said, find the most expensive, best person in town. Because this is my life. I've already made this mistake once before. It's worth everything. It doesn't matter how much it costs. It's the rest of your life. How much is that worth? So that's my advice.
Yeah. Thank you very much for giving us your experience and the lessons that you've learned. Because I know our listeners who are listening to us right now, some of them are in the same situation. Some of them are thinking about whether I should get married or not. And others are in a second marriage and they are thinking, will this marriage work? Will this marriage survive? Will we be able to make it past even our first year? So I really appreciate you sharing those insights for our listeners.
Yeah, that's one other thing I'll pass along is this. Marie and I sit down and we talk to a lot of people who have their communication skills are just, they're suffering. And if that's where you are, you're a lot closer to having the relationship than you think. It's only how you feel. I know what it's like to be there, to look at Marie. There was a time in my relationship with her where I looked at her and kind of went, this is so amazing. I want to marry this person. And then we have one of these fights and I'm like, I can't stand this person. But the reality was the solution to actually understanding how to get on the same page with Marie and clear the air, it was not complicated. It wasn't as big of a deal. But if you do wait around before you can believe or accept or even try to learn something new, it's only going to get worse. So you're a lot closer than it might feel horrible, but trust me, you're a lot closer to having the relationship that you want. You just have to believe that someone has the answer. If you can even believe just a little bit that someone might have an answer, then you have the opportunity to go looking for that person who has the answers.
Thank you very much, Mark, for giving us more explanation and further explanation and giving us detailed ways that we can actually go ahead and make an impact in our marriages and also be able to seek the resources that we need to improve our marriages or improve whatever thing that we are struggling with in our marriage. I really appreciate you guys coming on the show today and giving us these insights and these lessons. Before we end this week's episode, how best can our listeners connect with you guys or contact you guys if they want to say thank you or they want to get in touch with you just to be able to get a better understanding of everything that you shared with us today?
Yeah, we have a website. It's NashvilleMarriageStudio.com. And we're on Facebook a lot.
Yeah.
It's a Nashville Marriage Studio on Facebook as well. But yeah, so you guys can check out our resources, and we have blog posts and things like that. Those are the two best places to find us.
Yeah. Is there any last words that you guys want to say before we end this week's episode?
No, just thank you so much for having us. And we hope that our story helps somebody either get help or know that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially the second marriage people. So
yeah, I mean, I guess that's what it is, to encourage people to know that, look, just because your friends don't have a relationship working, just because no one you know has a relationship that functions in the way that you would want it, just because none of your friends don't have the answers, doesn't mean they don't exist. I look back and went, man, if I'd only known, my life would be so much better. So I'm just telling you, even if it seems like there's no answers, have a little hope, have some faith, and look around.
Thank you very much, Mark and Marie, for sharing your story. I know our listeners appreciate it a lot, and they're going to learn a thing or two from it and be able to apply it in their marriage so they can also improve their marriage. I'm really thankful that you guys came on the show this week to share your story with us.
Yes, thank you, too, for having us.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the First Year Marriage Show. To submit a question, feedback, or suggestions for the podcast, visit firstyearmarriage.com/feedback. Apply what you've learned today and build a strong foundation for the happy, healthy, and lasting marriage you desire. Enjoy your marriage. Enjoy your life.